Hello! Today I'm going over the best 15 books I read in 2021, and while I am doing this lovely voiceover, I am going to be coloring in a coloring book. I am coloring in a coloring book for knitters by Mason Dixon Knitting. So I've just been working through this slowly. I have a few videos up of them, but I'm just using my beautiful Crayola markers and just having some fun. And we'll be talking about some books. It's been kind of stressful with the holidays, but we're almost done here, aren't we? So yeah, I'll be talking about 15 books. 2 of them are series. I'm sorry I cheated. And I'm not putting them in any order. It's just the order that I read them this year. So we'll be starting all the way back into January when it was really cold. And the first book I have that I read that was beautiful, great book, The Testaments by Atwood. Wow. I loved The Handmaid's Tale, but The Testaments, I could not put it down. Atwood does a really good job. I really admire her writing style, and I don't know, this one was just so much action. I really enjoyed it. Maybe she was inspired by The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, and it's a bit more action based, but man, I really had a great time reading this book. I don't remember that much about it, but I do remember having a snow day, and I read the last 100 pages in one sitting. It was great. Next, a very widely recommended book. This is How You Lose the Time War. A very poetic book, very great book. Loved it. 2 people going through time and leaving messages for each other. Very interesting. It's a love story. It's sci-fi. This is how I like to read my sci-fi books. It wasn't too technical. It was very emotional. It was very fun. I felt like the authors both had a lot of fun writing this book, and it was just really interesting to read. And it was fun, and it was a quick and easy read too. So the next book I have here is called Seasonal Slow Knitting. So I'm a bit biased. My friend actually wrote this book. Just bragging a little bit about my friend. But this is a great book if you're into knitting and you want to read about knitting. Often knitting books are just like, oh, this is how you can make something. Obviously, that's what knitting is about. But I think Hannah goes through and talks about knitting and slowing down and thinking about what you want to knit and using what you have already. And I've done a few things in this book. I've used some of her advice around the holidays about making sentimental gifts that are made by hand, by trying to use what yarn you have already before purchasing more yarn and being creative with what you have. So I really enjoyed Slow Knitting, her first book, and I really did enjoy Seasonal Slow Knitting. I think I enjoyed it more because her patterns are in it. Anyways, the next book is a middle grade book that I read called Song for a Whale. This is such a cute book. It's about a girl who is deaf, and she learns about a whale who is a mix of 2 different whales. I didn't know whales could do that, but he's kind of like a mix, and he can't sing right, so no one can hear him, and she feels for this whale because she struggles with communicating with others with being deaf. And I learned a lot about deafness and sign language, and it was very interesting, and I learned a lot, and it was a middle grade book. Great, touching story. Totally recommend. Next book is Never Let Me Go. This is one of those books I went in without knowing anything. Didn't know anything. So if you've not read Never Let Me Go and you know nothing about it, don't look it up. Go ahead and read it, especially if you like emotional books. This book tore my heart out. and then smashed it multiple times because I was heartbroken after reading this. I slowed down after reading this and had to take a moment. That's when I feel like I know a book is good, is when I end the book and I'm stunned, or I have to hold on to it a little bit longer. In this book, I really had to hold on to it, and it hurt. It was very beautifully written, I thought, and very kind of slow at the beginning, but if you stick with it, you'll kind of see it come around in full circle. The next one is Crying in Hmart. Great book, autobiography about a young girl who is Korean American Korean, and she talks about her relationship with her mom, her Korean mom, and the death of her mom. And it's really, really touching. A lot of funny things in there, interesting things in there about her life, and of course dealing with death, which is always really sad but very important. Another book is Almost American Girl. This is a graphic novel about a young Korean girl who is like preteen or teen years, and her mom tells her that they're moving to America and she's marrying another Korean who is living in America. And I think this is very interesting from a teacher perspective, seeing a young girl come into a new environment completely. She deals with bullying, racism, and totally finding herself, and then at the very end reflecting about how coming to America pretty much changed her whole life. The next is The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. This is the first book I've read with magical realism. Crazy, wonderful book. Completely jarring too. There are certain times I was completely jarred unexpectedly. The Magic Fish, which is a graphic novel about a young boy telling fairy tales to his mother, and his mother feeling kind of out of place for being not fully American, and her young son not feeling quite in place because he is finding out that he is gay. Mistborn Saga. This is where I cheat a little bit. Mistborn Saga, go read it. Amazing. Brandon Sanderson series to start with. I loved this series and I couldn't put it down the whole time. About a girl named Ben who finds out she has powers and she's going to go save the world. That's how I like books to be sometimes. Great plot twist, great characters. The Simple Path to Wealth. It is a very simple book about how to get your finances and make money with the money that you have. Good book. The Bullet Journal Method. Another great book. I wish I had this book physically so I could go through it and review, and I've really found kind of a way to bullet journal finally this year that is working for me, and it's very interesting to read his methods. It is very different from what we see online. 6 Crimson Cranes. I've talked about this one on my channel already. 6 Crimson Cranes is a great YA fantasy. I could not put this down, about a young princess whose brothers are turned into cranes and she must save them, and she has a bowl on her head. A bowl that's on her head. I really like this book. I was a little disappointed to find out there is going to be a second book. I thought this is a great solo book, but I am excited for the next one. I will definitely read the next book coming out, I think this coming year. Dial A for Aunties. Oh my goodness, this book had me laughing out loud because I was listening to the audiobook to and from work, and I was just ranting to my husband about this book because I just was laughing so hard. This book was written to be a movie. This was definitely like, it has to be made into a movie. It's written perfectly for a sitcom or just comedy driven movie, and I'm really excited. I think Netflix is going to make it into a movie. This book was so funny. I am definitely wanting to read the next one if it's just as funny. The last book, and again, a bit of a cheat, is the Stormlight Archive. I've not read all the books that are out. I have read only the first and second, and I'm halfway through the third. They are bricks of a book. So if you are looking for a brick to read, about a 1,000 page each book, there's 4 out right now. This is a great series to sink your teeth into. It is probably my favorites that I've read this year, and it is about, what is it about? It's an epic high fantasy novels, very Brandon Sanderson, great world building, and it is about people finding out they've got some powers and how they're going to use them. I really enjoyed the Stormlight Archive. It's really hard to explain to someone. Even the backs of the books don't really explain the books, but it is an insane book series. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later, and keep reading. Bye!